Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Reserved Miami. This is a very special session for us. We're very happy to be here. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Today, we're going to do a very special presentation on a compilation, a very special project. And I'm surrounded by two guys that I have a lot of respect for. My name is Jesús Rodríguez. I'm part of one-third of a collective called Rum and Coke. I'm here with my partners, DJ Kumi, who's behind the booth right over there, and Harold Fandino, he's back here. And we have a wonderful party that's also by the name of Rum and Coke that we've been doing now at Dante's Hi-Fi for the last 4.5 years. We're very happy to say that we have the longest running residency at Dante's. We're extremely proud of that. It is a party that celebrates the entire spectrum of music from the Caribbean, Latin America, and the African music that is in constant conversation with the region. And we are going to be having session 51 actually tomorrow with my guys Garo and AfroQbano. This is not our typical kind of session. Tonight we are celebrating the release of a very, very important project that is a compilation. And compilations are very unique things in the music industry because they serve as an entry point, almost as a door that you open that opens up 100 more doors. And when done right, it contextualizes music. It revives music that was forgotten for decades. And for me personally, it's a format that has really expanded my knowledge in music. It has really expanded my knowledge in history and socio-economic context of where the music that I love comes from. It's a very important format to keep alive because when done right, it has really a power to really kind of change the narrative and give a second chance and a fighting chance to songs and artists that were long forgotten. An obvious example of that is with the countless of Western African music compilations that came out in the early 2000s. There were bands that weren't touring for over 20 years and now had a second shot at being touring musicians again and finding a new generation of fans and to be able to live out their dreams of being touring musicians and that kind of thing. So it brings me now to our two guests. I have to my left, Garo, an amazing rapper, producer, DJ, used to be part of the Cuban hip hop band Doble Filo. He's a guy who has done an enormous amount of work for Cuban culture. And I'm gonna keep it at that because I know we gotta keep it moving. And then to my right is the man considered as the most important collector of 7 inches out of Cuba.
Yes, sir.
He says no, but we haven't found the other guy. So, an incredible DJ producer in his own right, owner of the label Future Rootz. And I want to welcome him making his debut at Dante's Hi-Fi tomorrow night with us as well, the one and only AfroQbano.
Thank you.
So I want to start with how it started for you guys. As far as my experience with, for example, I'm from the Dominican Republic, and my experience is that what's always been there didn't require the extra attention because it was just there. I don't want to say take for granted, but it was something that, it didn't take the amount of effort that I put into today to the music. It took, a certain maturation, years of being like, oh my God, this is important, this has weight. And I wonder where that journey started for you guys. I know you guys were heavy into sampling and that kind of thing. Was there any record in particular for you guys that was like, oh wait, I gotta pay attention to this. This is important and this is actually incredible music. And I'll start with you, Harold.
All right. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
So for me, I grew up in Cuba, with a musical country. My parents had a big collection. My mom liked the more like, the ballads, and my dad was more like a dance, que está revés, bam, and all that stuff. So I have the best of both sizes. I mean, I don't have a favorite Cuban album, but if I have to mention one that I can recall and playing it over and over again, it will be Maggie Carles and Luis Nodal, the first album. My mom used to love that, and she played that and repeat all the time. That album specifically was basically American covers in Spanish of like American music. That's on my mom's side. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't have a specific album that will be like, oh, like in my dad's side will be like Orquesta Rebe. He's a big fan since the early Changui stuff from like the 60s and like late 50s actually. That was when the Orquesta Rebe was founded. That sound rich, el sonido de Oriente, you know? So,
yeah, in my case, very similar. Music comes through the parents. I have one parent, my mother, that was all Cuban music all the time, 24/7. Specifically Cuban music after the revolution. And my father was all American music, 24/7. I never heard him play one Cuban record ever. So that was my house most of the days. Like my mom in the mornings and then my dad in the afternoons. I also don't have a record because I was thinking where you were saying that it was always there. And for us, it was always there, both in the house. Cuba is a very musical country. Not only the amount of genres and the amount of incredible musicians that it has, but also and I noticed that here, it is very aggressive sound-wise. Like you open your eyes and it's hammering you with music. There's no, excuse me, there's no like, oh, today is Friday, like every single day. Monday to Monday. It's either recorded music or un toque, ¿sabes? A un santo. Somebody celebrating santo birthday, ¿sabes? Aniversario. O están dándole un toque a un santo específico. Or it's something de rumba. Or it's just people, 4 p.m., we drinking some rum and just like, let's play music. Or either play it rumba or play it from un baffle. Like it's always there. So it's always very present. And in the time that we grew up, there were a lot of TV shows constant, like Mi Salsa, with live music. So it was very music oriented. TV was very music oriented. Pan Mexicanas on Sunday, a live show, TV show about música campesina cubana. My family comes from el campo, parecido like your mom, right? Every Sunday they played Pan Mexicana, a show about música campesina. I wasn't into that, but es obligado, like respect que está la música de tu abuela.
That was, it's...
I was like church. Like every Sunday, it doesn't matter what I wanted to do, we gotta see this. So it was always there. So I was thinking, it was never a record. If I have a record, I wouldn't say it's because I had a wow moment. It's because I was sampling records. My thing into getting into collecting was for producing. And it was a sample of Fara Maria, and it was a dope beat. And Giles Peterson came to Havana, and he went through all my beats. He's like, yo, this. So that got me into, I gotta figure out all the records from this lady and all the producers and because before that it was just, you just get records. First of all, you're a kid, you don't have no money. So records were 10 pesos. Now we're seeing records here, $100, $80. It was 10 pesos and it was just a dude in the corner. You pass, you see something, you take it. And then you try to get the most amount of music or samples out of it. But I would say it was the validation of other people, like people in the States, like, yo, this beat is crazy. That I was like, oh, let me get my hands on this Fara Maria. And then seeing them going to a record store, and I have this memory of Giles buying every single Fara Maria record there, straight to it. No, I don't have to listen, give me all. So that really popped something in me about this collecting and protecting our source. It was interesting what you said. It was always there, man. Cuba is such a musical thing. For me, when I left Cuba, I was able to understand the importance of conserving that, and also that the world, most of it, doesn't know about it, right? We have all this phenomenon of salsa. Oh, salsa was born in New York, this and that, and we all, same as Celia, we're like, what? This is the same music de la Sonora Matancera. So it wasn't until we were here, or I was here, that I realized. I thought it was a giving. I thought it's like, have you heard Bang Bang? Like, do I need to explain anything else? And here I understand that, yeah, actually you do. Very long story in between, but that is one of the things that led us here.
Yeah, it was actually the same for me too. Like I think it was once I moved here to the U.S., I started, my college years. And that's when I kind of started really going deeper, seeing the appreciation also too from people from abroad with our music. I mean, like I have to take this seriously. I ask because I think the progression of where you guys started to where you guys are at now with this release. I keep saying the word important, and it's because the musical story from Cuba has been mostly told by non-Cubans. And I think that one of the unique things about this release is that it was done by you too. And it's the first time with this type of music and the so-called Cuban funk legacy that's and label that's been thrown around. It's the first of its kind. I wanted to maybe dig in a little of if there was a moment for you guys in particular where like, how did the spark for this compilation, when did it happen? How did the talks, begin and that kind of thing?
So I moved to the US in like 2008. There is this DJ crew in Chicago called Sonorama. They were playing my music from Cuba. I came here without records. I was like, wait, what?
They were flexing on you.
I was like, wait, what? They say, okay. And they actually pushed me. They say to get like really hard at it. Like, there is no way. I mean, how you got this? Explain this to me, When I was like in college in Cuba, I used to sell records to tourists. And that was my like side hustle or whatever. I knew the music because I was making beats for like hip hop groups around there and stuff like that. Going back to the Sonorama, they actually pushed me like, okay, it became like almost like a competition. Like there is no way that, do know about this record. I grew up with this. And after that, I started paying more attention into it. I saw compilations like Sí para usted and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, all those songs are cool. And it became like those tracks were the same, like people were releasing compilation with the same tracks. Everybody had the Casa del Trompo,
Juan Pablo Torre, yeah.
Juan Pablo Torre, Grupo Monumental, stuff like that, I mean, I can go deeper into the music. And I blame, this is all this guy. I didn't want to do this at all. I do know how hard it is to get a license in Cuba. It took like how much, like a year, 2 years?
I want to say a year and a half, yeah.
Yeah, just to get a response was probably like a year.
Yeah.
And then when we got the yes, another year. At the end of the day, when we requested, okay, how can we get the master tracks and stuff like that? I was like, okay, I have to go to my parents' house and dig into my room and see what I can pull out from my closet, and this is how pretty much half of those tracks came to fruition. Like I said, I blame this guy for it. I was like super frustrated because my first attempt was we released Los Joyes, and like when I was ready to, he said, okay, we're gonna release in like a couple months or whatever. I got somebody send me a link and say, oh, okay, this is coming out of Mr. Bongo's label. I was like, hell no.
Hard stop, yeah.
I love Mr. Bongo label. He put a bunch of stuff like that out and yada, yada, yada. It became like an obsession to me. Like, we have to do this ourselves. We have to make sure people know that we Cubans have the capacity and the knowledge to share our own music, pretty much.
Yeah, for me it was similar in the sense of like I started noticing before leaving Cuba, like foreigner DJs and producers started coming to Cuba, and I saw the way they were talking about our music and just talking about songs and records and talking about the prices of records, and that started to call my attention. Like something's going on here, that because we live in a country back then, no internet, and a closed border country, meaning that you need to ask for permission to leave the country and to come back again. Imagine, you don't have no idea what's going on outside. You see it through magazines. Thankfully enough, we learned English through hip hop, and we were involved in hip hop culture. We pioneers in our country of that. So we got to see a lot of the world through the eyes of hip hop. And we're very, very grateful for that. It's a culture that really, we're here because of that culture, and a lot, of course, of our lives and our parents. But that culture really opened our mind to really understand the world from another perspective. And I gotta say, and I say this as much as I can, AfroQbano, he came to the United States before me. And he already, when we were teenagers, he had the vision to go after the 45s. I wanted just the LPs because there was more opportunities to get samples. So he started doing that. I couldn't understand at the time. We were like, bro, what are you doing, bro? Like, there's just one song in those records. You crazy? And that's why that's the biggest collection. Like, things that I never thought. Even my first release, Quimbín, he was the man that gave me my first release. He gave me that master. He said, you should put this out, my brother. And that says a lot about him. He could have kept all that to himself and be D1 Cuban with the label, the one Cuban that knows about this. And we were connected in Cuba, but we connected here again, and he was pushing me every day. I was sending him in remix and edits that I was doing. He's like, my brother, you should put this out on a record. So he was on top of me on that. Even though I had a collection, I had DJ on vinyl and everything, he was always on top of me. You should do it. You should focus completely on that. And then this happened, an episode that really triggered us. I was so happy for him. He was releasing Los Yoyi, which is, I think, that Cuban funk, quote unquote, record that first hit $100 in Discog, that really started drawing attention. And I was so happy that he was able to release it, and I got the news too, that it was also being released by another label. And immediately, man, I had to go to a bedroom and like cry a little because I knew what that meant. All that effort, all that money invested, now it's gonna go all the attention, as always, for Cuba. This is me talking from a Cuban, born in Cuba perspective. What made me cry is, again, all the attention is gonna go to the foreigner. Now he's the discoverer. When we've been living this since we're little kids, we've been digging since we're like 13. He was with like maybe 14, 15 years in La Tienda de Seriocha. It's behind La Grema of Centro Habana. So he was there after Seriocha store closed when we were teenagers, digging for records, and made a relationship with Seriocha that he left and stayed there. And it's not even like he was buying mad records, it's just the love for the music. And it really hit me, man. Like, once again, this is gonna happen. And I called him. I'm like, my brother, you were right. I'm gonna step in, I'm gonna do the label. You were completely right. And this is never gonna happen again. I give you my word. And then, I went my mission to fix this and try to find a way that we can license this, which is a whole other novel. That the reason that I felt prepared for that is because I come from Cuban hip hop, and Cuban hip hop was under a lot of scrutiny at the time. It still is. It still is. There's a brother right now, Cuban hip hop brother, in jail right now, that recently, not to mention other people that are incarcerated that do hip hop. But in my time, it was under a lot of pressure, because a lot of magazines, the Source, Stress Magazine, Vibe, everybody was there. Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Dead Press, Tony Touch, the Roots came from Spain, La Mala Rodríguez. Like, Cuba was at a moment the epicenter of hip hop in Latin America. Everybody, if you did hip hop Spanish, excepting Boricuas, they had their own thing going, and we were like, yo, Boricua, Herrero, all that. I just came from Puerto Rico and learned more about that story. Except for Boricuas, everybody else from Latin America had to go to Cuba. I'm talking Ana Maquisa, the Alamar Amphitheater, Thursday, Random, Monto Jordan. People they didn't even knew. He was going on stage, and the dude that was in front of the La Peña, we call it, he's like, yo, ¿qué está haciendo este hombre? What is this dude doing? The auditions are Monday. He didn't know it was Monto Jordan. So that's how we lived. It was very hip hop in Alamar and Cuba, where I grew up.
People, sorry to call you, like, people are pretty regional over there. Like, we got like Mos Def and Talib, the Blast Star, and like
nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
And then Mos Def blessed the mic, and everybody turned completely around, cheering him like he was a local, because we didn't know who they were. We only cared if you were dope. It's not that they preferred the locals, it's that they knew that some locals were dope. That was one of the things that made me fall in love with hip hop. There could be no nepotism, nobody can put you on. When you up there with the mic, it's you, my brother, and the bars, or you, my sister. So that's how we grew up. The reason that I felt that I have the tools to make this happen is that I started very young. I was maybe 12, 13, and it made me learn how to navigate the system in Cuba. learn how to find inside institution people that did care. Not everything in life, everything good has a little bit of bad, everything bad has a little bit of good. And my survival mechanism was finding the good in the bad. In a place where they don't want you to succeed, there's always people that do. There's always people that care. And I always made my mission to try not to, I realized young that I couldn't afford to be at war 24/7. That this thing happening in Cuba was real, that my brothers were really going to jail, that people really being cut or not, they couldn't leave the country. So I realized if I only go to war, it's not gonna happen. So I started very early to try to connect the dots and find that. So that's what I told Haro. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna find a way. I told him, bro, what's the worst thing that could happen? It can't happen. Then we started doing a bootleg, and then we have a story to tell. We try to do it legally, but we're not gonna sit by and see, with all due respect, and I gotta clarify this. I love everybody that has done those compilations. What I don't love is the attention only goes there, right? And I get it. I was telling Haro, it's because people gotta do it. There's no compilation done by Cubans. I don't even wanna get into the details of why. There's a lot of reasons why. But I wanna poner eso a un lado and just get to it and present the best thing that we can present. And fortunately, after almost 2 years of struggle, we could finally put it out. It's the mission of our lives. The amount of patience, I graduated from Bula with this, like the patience of the world, my brother. Because we have a mission. When you have a why, you always find a how. And we both had the mission, and we always said this is bigger, because there were times that we were very frustrated to the point of like crying, my brother. Because you're like, bro, this is my music. What is this, my brother? Bongo comes here, it's like bam, 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 gone done, leave with the master, all good. Giles comes here, bam, bam, beautiful, all smiles. The moment we come, ooh, it's a lot of questions, it's a lot of meetings, but we had a mission. And I gotta say, saying all this, I'm very grateful to everybody that in Cuba, they want it to happen, because for this to happen, a lot of people have to intervene. So I'm always grateful for them. Even where you think that, they don't want that to happen, there's people there that really wanted to succeed, that really had a lot of pride. I'm big on telling my colleagues in Cuba, this is a pride thing. We cannot be comfortable seeing that the experts on Cuban music are non-Cubans. This is something that we cannot feel comfortable with. And I found the people that shares that feeling, and they push it, and I'm always grateful to them, because the history of Cuba is not the history of this 50 years. Cuba is a blessed land. Then the last 500 years of giving an amount of music and genres that's incredible for how small it is. This is the biggest pride that I carry every day. We only care about music. That's what we decided to do very young. Everything else, for me at least, doesn't make much sense in this world. Music is my everything. I went on, but I did want to explain, because it was a little bit traumatic for us when that hit us. When that Joyi record came out at the same time, Harold is very stoic and a very serious person. I have a big character, but I have a lot of feelings. I had to cry, man. It meant, it was a hit to my face. Like again, I'm a second-class citizen in my own country.
So I think given that, let's dig in. Let's dig into this compilation. So the first thing you see is obviously the artwork. And let's talk about what the visual direction, what did you have in mind? Who did you get for this amazing art for the cover?
Haro has an incredible collective with Future Rootz, and they do a lot of design. So I asked them if they were okay, if I could share a little bit my vision. I told them about it, and they said very gracefully, go on. I'm very hands-on with the projects that I work in art direction. I have a whole vision in my head, what I want to transmit. Music, life is three-dimensional. Music needs to come with something else that gives it context. I did graffiti for a lot of years. I'm very into visual arts. And one of Cuba's most notorious graffiti artists is called Mr. Mil. He has done incredible murals in Cuba, especially in the pandemic, denouncing what was going on. And we've been colleagues many years doing graffiti. And I called him, I'm like, Mil, my brother, I'm having this issue that I'm not finding the artists that I need for this. mind you, he could do it. And he was like, I explained to him why, and he's like, man, I think I have somebody, a colleague that is amazing. And this is a Colombian artist called Saga Uno. Bro, amazing painter, graffiti artist, muralist, and Emilio was honest. He's like, man, I don't even know he's gonna respond. Like, this dude is killing it. Like, this dude is on another level. I'm gonna hit him and let's see. And he responded immediately, like as a colleague to him, like, yeah, introduce me to your brothers. And I talked to him. I told him the vision, and he said, man, I have all this work to do. Can you wait for me? I don't know, it's gonna be 9 months. We went back and I said, I strongly think we should wait and work with this artist. So we waited. He was very gracious to let me share with him the art direction. These are artists that are not into that. They're not, I'm doing my art. I don't need you directing me. So because of the importance of this, he let us get into it. I always want something that when you see it has details that are undeniable Cuban, that people from Cuba and from the culture know. Every other compilation before this, the whole point around it is the word revolution. Infatuation with the revolution and after the revolution, revolutionary music. And we were like, bro, what are you talking about, bro?
There's an exotic element to it.
A very exotic, like you acting like people were saying that by choice. That's how we know you don't know. Again, I would like to separate here the professional me from the Cuban me. Because in a professional level, that sounds like, yo, what are you saying that? But the Cuban in me was a conflict. I want to keep it nice, but the Cuban in me is always like, why do you have to call them all revolution this and revolution that, right? So I wanted to go into details but give him space. So this corner here says Serio, is Seriocha. This is the homage to Seriocha, which was a seller of records in Centro Habana that everybody, if you look it up, you're gonna see Questlove digging there, Giles digging there, everybody. This is where AfroQbano used to go get the records. And it's the only store that you can really say over the years, like, oh, this is the spot to get records. So we wanted to do an homage for him. He passed away. His collection was lost for many years. We found it again, all his records, and we wanted to have him. We also did a whole investigation into the synths and what synths were used, mostly Russian synths, copies of Moog, etc. Because at some point they took all the American gear out of the studios, all the Neve consoles, all that they throw away, and they change it for Russian preamps and Russian synths. So we went to a whole thing with that to make sure that scene is exactly something accurate to that era, etc. This is a little homage that he did. I didn't ask him for that. That's kind of like harder than me. I mean, it's not obviously not us, but it's just two kids selling records and dealing records, which is what we do in our own lives. And then the rest is his interpretation. The car, Cochon, like the way people move in Havana. We had a lot of time to go back and forth with this, and until we felt it was right, we didn't stop, and we're very honored to have him on, which he is also a big part of Colombian hip hop culture. So it's like a full circle moment of Latin American hip hop, because digging and this extremely connected. It's like one.
It's amazing the amount of detail that's in this project, and not just visually, but also sonically. You put this record on, and the vinyl, the pressing sounds fantastic. The remastering of these records that are so rare sound amazing. That will be part of the legacy of this compilation as well, because it's almost like sonically the definitive version of most of these songs, I would say. I want to go real quick before we start getting into listening to this compilation, into the process of the sourcing of the material, the mastering of these tracks, and what was that like? Who worked with you guys for the mastering? And hear a little bit about that.
I can start by saying it was tough, man. Whatever master we got from Igram, not all the masters were to the standard for us to actually press the vinyl. So like I said before, I have to go ahead and dig on my closet and start pulling stuff out. Some of my material was also damaged. So there was a lot of sticking tapes together, trying to restoring all that material was as hard as to get like the license or whatever. It was tough. We went to like a couple different people to get it mastered.
2 master engineers. We did a whole mastering. We didn't like it, and we said, let's get another master engineer and go again.
Yeah, I mean, it's because like Cuban sound of that time, it was pretty particular. So I cannot bring it to somebody that doesn't understand the music and doesn't understand what was whatever they were using at that period of time. And so it was, like I said, how many master copies we did? Like take 6, 7, easy or more.
Because I also got to add, not only Jaro is one of the Cubans with the biggest collection of 7-inch, he's also a pioneer of having this music and finding the masters in reel-to-reel tapes. He also got me big into that. He's like, my brother, you got to get into this. Really pushed me to that. Thanks to him, we were able to get new masters and transfer it ourselves. There's little nuances here and there, like Quimbín, if you listen to the original 45, it ends different on this pressing. Little
details like, you know, we get the room sound, like, oh, okay, you ready? All right, that type of stuff, you know.
When we do the 10-year anniversary, we're gonna say all the secrets. Okay. This is what we can say. But we put a lot of effort into that, because that's the other thing. People that put this out, I get it. You putting out a lot of compilations. We also wanted to treat this be a physical representation of the way we feel and we treat this music in our lives, with the most amount of respect, admiración. So we wanted cada detalle. Mastering, whoever's into music production knows that doing all this is not something that is cheap, it's costly. We didn't care about that. We're losing money on this compilation. We didn't care. We need to do this at the highest level possible. Our biggest inspiration with this is not only doing homage to all these musicians. By the way, we have the great Omar Hernández from Acheré, AfroQbano, Los Sobrinos de Jue, Willy Chirino, one of the biggest Cuban bassists of all time. He is here in this compilation with his first group, Acheré, from Isla de Pinos. Not only doing it right by them and doing a whole investigation, which we're gonna talk a little bit about, but also sonically. We both are producers, both went to school for engineering. We both have done this all our lives. We got a scholarship for engineering in Berkeley, and we also talked about that. We can't be all this and then not be reflected in the compilation. So we took a lot of time with the sonics, back and forth until it was just right.
Yeah, you can hear it. All right, so let's get going with this comp, man. The introduction is by the one and only Chucho Valdés. And here we go. And we're gonna make a few pit stops along the way. There's a few stories that I want the guys to share about certain songs. Here we go. This is Cuban Beat Fantasía. Yeah, that's just the first song. Do you guys want to tell me who is the Conjunto Artístico de la FAR? What is the acronym FAR stand for?
Fuerza Armada Revolucionaria. You want to explain? So, yeah. So, this is actually something very interesting. First, this is a song that Hilario Durán, and it's a version that not even Hilario heard for a lot of years. It's on the liner notes. He was very surprised. He was, can you please send me the recording? I don't think I ever heard that recording. So that's the reason it's there. Hilario Durán is a very important person in this era, and we wanted to show something from him completely different than what anybody expected. This is one of those records that nobody ever buys, ever. Like, nobody really cares about that. But in Cuba, the military service is obligatorio. How do you say in English?
Mandatory.
No, you Cuban, obligatory? Yeah, that's mandatory. Mandatory. So when you read that, you're like, oh damn, this is the military doing this. Not really. This is just kids that you have to go to the army. You have to do 2 years, and then if you study music, you kind of go to a band. And back then, it seems like they were recording so many things that they have random records, whatever, aniversario, whatever it is, whatever date, and then they have a record with crazy recordings. Because all this can be the top kids from their de su año, of their year, because that's the other thing. There's not enough military bands for everybody that goes to music school to get into. So the ones that can get a little bit out of whatever you have to do in the military service, the best ones are the ones that go to the band. And for us, it's always been super interesting because you get the wackest looking record and you put the needle and you're like, damn, no way, this dude's were from the army. And they weren't. They were just passing, trying to get out of doing a guardia, I don't even know how to say that. Like, you know, you're standing there all night looking at the sky, just trying to play music. And there were so many recordings that it got recorded, and for us, it's always been fascinating.
Sorry, on that note too, that you have to also know that they were probably 18 years old.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the age that you go to the army.
It's not
so that
like
you heard,
grown-ups, man. Like they were teenagers making
that's
this
teenagers.
music.
Yes, sir.
I guess that maybe that also brought the mentality of pushing musically. Dude, this doesn't sound like a military record. There's nothing kind of like straight ahead about it. This sounds funky. It sounds creative. It sounds that there's a push there, you know? I wonder if there's because of the age.
I mean, I was asking Maestro Omar Hernández about it. I was just talking to him about it. What was it about that era? And yeah, everybody was pushing musically. Everybody was trying to do something. This is the era of Bam Bam. This is the era of Changuito, the era of the creation of Songo. Every teenager that was into music, you had so many musical heroes. It is also, and I learned this, Rich Medina, his trip to Cuba, we had a very deep talk, the three of us, about Cuban music and American music. And he was letting us know how in the 70s was the biggest export of black music in America. So that also had a huge influence in Cuba. You can see in the way people dress, even though it was against what the government wanted and you can get in trouble, had a huge black American music, incredible influence. So everybody wanted to be, that's why for me it all goes back to hip hop. Everybody wanted to be dope. Everybody wanted to be on point. Music in Cuba is life or death. It's like, I imagine like football in Brazil. You really gotta go win. Schools is about that. You go to school, you get made fun if you're not dope.
Right.
Like that's the thing. It's not about how you look or anything. You ain't got the chops, they're gonna get on you. Because there's also a lot of competencia. Like if you're at school, most of the dopest kids, they go to bands. So you have all this thing of like, oh, I'm in this band and I'm touring while I'm in school. So everybody in Cuba that's into music and anything, that you really, really are pushing for greatness. And that's not something that they teach you in school. It is part of Cuban culture. If you're un rumbero, forget about school, rumba, no school. You cannot ask for a quinto or una gonga just like this is desayunarse un pan con jamón. People are playing, if you ask for un quinto, you better, bro. If you ask for the quinto, oh my Lord, you better come in like, yo, they're gonna give it to you, and you better melt that quinto. I don't even imagine. Nobody does that and doesn't melt the quinto. So that's how it is in Cuba at any level. Un toque de santo. Tu coge la maraca, you better be on point. I see here that people go, it's cencerro, they go crazy. I'm like, oh Lord, have mercy. You cannot do that in Cuba. You take a cencerro, you start beep, bing, bing, bing. Oh, no. So yeah, that's part of the culture, and it's been part of that culture forever, okay? Arsenio Rodríguez didn't go to music school. Like many of these musicians never went to music school, you know?
Okay, what the fuck was that? like, tell me about this, man, because I don't see anything online about that record. Anything, there's nothing, like, please.
Yeah, it's Grupo Villa Clara, Conjunto José. So it's one of the most sold out records in Cuba. Super rare. In my lifetime, I only seen it twice. 45. 45. Only came out on 45. And the music director is Vladimir Karel. He actually was also the producer for Grupo Los Magnéticos. That, one of the alternative bands in Cuba that they used to do all the funk, rock stuff back in the 70s. It's so rare, I can't put a tag price on it. It's just that rare, And it was one of the hardest tapes to fix because it's so, the master we got from the end, they were trashed. We couldn't use those. And I was like, probably we won't be able to put this in the compilation. And I came across a decent copy on tape it was like really sticky and have to bake it to make sure that we were able to recover. Like some of that songs from that album, it's incredible. It's actually an album that never came out. Only 2 songs of that artist came out, only on 45.
And impossible.
It's impossible.
We both been digging big time since we're 14, 13, and Garo, which is the king of 45s, only come across 2 copies. I never seen in my life a clean copy of this ever. I never heard this song in this quality until we started working on this compilation. This is one of the things that we also wanted to do. We want something that unveils over the years and that people, it's a lot of information now at once, but we want something that over the years people start realizing things. We wanted to give a lot of value to the people that buy this compilation. Like many of the records here are $150 records if you can find them. Some of them have no value, like Conjunto said, there is no clean copy. So we really wanted to go in and say, this is the first time ever since that came out that you can get a clean copy of this song. And that this song is talked about and then this group, all this is talked about in the liner notes, which is also a whole investigation that took 6-8 months with the great Judy Cantor Navas, an incredible journalist, one of the American journalists that has written more about Latin music and Cuban music. I can go on and on about Judy, and she's also another ally, and we're blessed that she was interested in this and went in, because we also didn't want, I said, Judy, I don't need somebody just writing about this. Like, we can do that. I want somebody who can take the time and really, really go in. That's one of the reasons we got Omar Hernández here, even though we're connected through friends. She was the one calling every single musician. The reason we got Chucho Valdés, she called Chucho, she interviewed him, she asked him if we could use the audio. Like that was all she going really, really in, like una hermana de causa, somebody that really understood the struggle and the importance of this.
All right, that was crazy, man.
I just want to say, that's Grupo Acheré of el maestro Omar Hernández, one of Cuba's greatest bassists of all time, and he has blessed us being here today. Thank you, maestro. Gracias. Which connects also to the song we heard before, which is a song that was popularized by Los Sobrinos de Juez, who is also maestro Omar Hernández played with, a band from Miami. And this is a Cuban version, and that song is actually it's a cover of Antonio Yocafi. And the interesting part of the Cuban one is they're talking about Juan Antonio, la canción original, right? About a saint. But you couldn't say that in Cuba at that time. So they converted to mi socio, my homie Juan Antonio. But it's really a saint.
Yeah.
There you go.
Man, incredible. And Garo, you were mentioning this was previously unreleased.
This never came out. This is actually a pretty interesting story about Los Barbas. This is the second coming on Los Barbas. They have a really tragic story. They died. Half of the musicians died in car accidents after they were touring, coming back from Pinar del Rio to La Habana. And, 1975, mid-70s. After that, I think the remainder members regrouped and came out with a different sound, because they were known more for like a rock, psychedelic. And then I think this is from 1978, if I'm not mistaken. It was recorded in Grand Studios, and it was never released. Maybe because they sound too American. I mean, the album is incredible from top to bottom. Hopefully, in the near future, we're able to, do the right thing and make sure that people know their music.
Amazing, man. Before we get into our last song, I do want to clear up a term that I see on the album, Cuban Beat Fantasía. What is that about? What is Cuban Beat Fantasía?
Like I was explaining, all the compilations and most that's been talked about this is under the umbrella of Cuban funk, which is a way to translate something, because there couldn't be, and that's what I'm underlining, couldn't be Cuban funk, because you couldn't use that expression, funk or disco, in 70s Cuba. You could not say that. So they came up with different terms. It's Cuban beat, there can be songo beat, there can be bolero beat. You see a lot of name of genres before beat. and Fantasia, which is the one that is harder to track down the why, I think only two people can really explain why. One is Rafael Somavilla, he passed away, and the other one is the incredible Chucho Valdés. He was gracious enough to not only give us the interview for the liner notes, which I have to say, without him is incomplete. He is the face, he's the father, he's one of the Cuban greatest musicians of all time. And he also gave us his voice to explain. We explained how important it was to leave a document, or him. Not he said, you said, I have a brother that played this and he knows, or somebody that comes from Europe and it's like, nah, I know about this, Fantasia. You, maestro. And he explains what Fantasia is. That's what you heard in the beginning. That's a term that of a composition that is not on any genre. So this is me saying it, not Chucho, and us. You couldn't, are the workarounds that you had to find in Cuba at that era. Name something Fantasia. I mean, that's the biggest irony of all. That's why I was so attracted to the name. And we were like, this is how we should name it. Because just the name, the fact that this compilation is not called Cuban Funk XY Revolution, and it's called this, lets you know, oh, something different's going on here. These are the names that were used at the time, and we are being responsible and doing an homage to that. It couldn't be Cuban funk. It had to be Fantasia. That's the way it was at the time.
That concept has definitely been like one of the more illuminating pieces of information for me, because when I started getting deeper into Cuban music, it was through these compilations, Así para Usted, the stuff that started coming out, and Sonar Collective, and a few others, and it was something that I never even crossed my mind, of the idea that funk is not a word that you can use given the time period. Yeah. Again, it's part of the details that are in this compilation that is so important, of correcting the narrative. And speaking of correcting the narrative, I want to talk about the Roberto Roena song, Que Se Sepa. Or is it a Roberto Roena song?
It's not. It's not a Roberto Roena song. I do have to say that Roberto Roena is responsible for making it, if not the biggest salsa anthems in the world, because it transcended quote unquote salsa. It's a b-boy anthem. It's a breakdance anthem. So he is responsible, and I want to make that clear. It is important for us to talk about history from an adult point of view and being responsible about things. This is not about taking sides or pointing fingers. There is a reality. There's been a huge theft of Cuban music, product of Cuba being completely cut out of the world. It's a closed border country, you don't know what's out, what's in, nothing. And I think a lot of labels, specifically Fania, they saw it and they took a huge advantage of that. Because let me be clear, the money in the music industry is not in the composition at all. It's literally pennies. It is a fixed price that you pay per record to, let's say, Harry Fox agencies, a mechanical royalty. There is no fixed price on the price of the master. Fania owns all these masters, is already making millions of dollars out of these masters. They didn't want to pay pennies to the authors. People say, oh, because there's a blockade, they couldn't pay. That has nothing to do with paying the mechanical royalties. That money getting to the authors in Cuba is a whole different thing that has nothing to do with the labels. I also think to myself, and this is not about Fania or the musicians, it's human nature. What do we let happen when nobody else steps up? Because in this investigation that Judy Cantor did specifically about Que Se Sepa, she interviewed the people that are still alive from Fania. Everybody was pointing a finger at Fania. But I question myself, all of you are musicians. You knew those songs were not yours. You knew as you that those people have family. And you stepped to the side and let that happen. And to this day, Que Se Sepa, everybody knows it, Que Se Sepa. To this day, the amount of covers and versions still call it the wrong name and still don't give credit to the author. That song name is not called Que Se Sepa, it's called Mi Quimbín. His author is José Couto. Somebody was telling me online 3 days ago, oh, That's public domain. I'm like, no, it's not. Jose Couto died 5 years ago. It is not. Because they keep promoting this narrative that Fania took forgotten songs. No, Que Se Sepa by Roberto Roena and Quimbín are 3 years apart. If anybody's interested, there's a whole article by the great Judy Cantor Navas, and I have to say it here, we're in Miami, most of our Latinos or no Latino. There's a reason we choose Judy Cantor Navas. And I'm gonna take my glasses off because
Dile.
this has to come from an American voice to people in America to pay attention. If I come and I tell this story, it's like a puppy crying.
Yeah, and I've been saying this for years. I've been fighting people over this track for many, many years. And people, no, it's Roberto Roena,
Exactly.
it's in New York, you know.
Exactly.
That's all New York.
Somebody like Judy, which is validated, and she's a sister. Judy has been in Cuba. I met Judy when I was 14 years old when she was doing a whole investigation about Cuban hip hop. Judy's a real one. And I told her that, I need you, we need you, because they will not pay attention to us if somebody of your caliber is not telling this story. She went in and investigated about Que Se Sepa. Everybody points to Fania. Everybody let it happen. And to this day, one of my biggest dreams is that the next time that song is covered, it is called the right name and they credit the author, which is Jose Couto. We need to take control of that narrative. We need to step in, fight for it. We need to get involved. That's why we're so grateful to you guys. Everything that you're doing, not only for us now, but what you're doing in Miami for Latin music, for DJs. It is very important for us to get that narrative. And the biggest hope of all is if we inspire one person to do something and be like, oh, wow, I want to tell my story now. Doesn't have to be a Cuban, doesn't have to be about Cuban music. That's the biggest thing that a human can do for another human. Inspiration. We're not in the 70s anymore that the record labels have a whole monopoly and you can record them. You don't have a $2 million of equipment. No, we are in a completely new era. Everybody has a TV, both to receive and an emitter in their hand. Everybody has a TV channel in their hand. Now people don't even consume monolithic content anymore. We need to get on top of this and tell our story how it is. And that's what I want to focus on. I mentioned the other compilations because it's part of the history, but I don't even focus on that. I focus on us telling it the way it is.
So like one thing about the other compilations, if you look at the credits, you don't see the artist. It's only who wrote that track, you know? It's a misdirection of like, okay, I like this song right here. So what do you know about that song? Because you went digging and then you find that record.
Oh, well, it's about post-revolutionary, this and that. It's like, my brother, I want to hear about Omar Hernández Acheré. You know, he was 20 years old. I want to hear about that. I want to hear his story. I want to hear about Isla de Pino. How was that time there?
Well, yes. No, I'm incredibly grateful that we were able to do this. Thank you, Garo. Thank you, AfroQbano. This was such an important talk. Again, I keep going back to that word important. I don't mean that lightly. I thank everyone here for listening, for sharing this with us. Today we talked. Today was the civil moment. Tomorrow night, we're going to get down and we're going to dance. Session 51 of Rum and Coke at Dante's Hi-Fi with my two brothers here as special guests. Thank you so much. Kumi, let's hear that Mi Quimbín by Los Bocucos. Thank you very much. Have a good one, man.